Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. You're like the Gen Z whisperer. Right? I'd love a little bit of context into you and your business. And then obviously we've got to talk about the book.
Yes. Okay, let's do it. Let me give you a little bit of context on all of that. So, I'm the founder and CEO of the Z-Link. We're a global Gen Z focused agency. So we help traditional brands connect with Gen Z, all kinds of brands really, from like big established brands like Pepsi or IKEA to startups that are just starting out and really want to make sure to hit the mark with Gen Z and engage them in a way that like Gen Z actually wants to see and be a part of. And we do that through market research. We've got a network of almost 30,000 Gen Zers in over 50 countries, and through social media marketing, content creation, marketing strategy, and consulting. So a lot of generational behavior research and all of that. And then on the book side, my book is called Design Your Life, Your Career, Your Way. And I wrote it because I wanted to share everything I've learned about how our generation can basically harness all the tools and resources we've got at our disposal today to build careers that provide them with flexibility, freedom, fulfillment, and ownership. Because I deeply believe there's better ways for us to work, and we're lucky to be young and entering the workforce now at an age where there's so many possibilities. So the book is just a way for me to share everything I've learned by doing that myself when I started my company 5 years ago.
I love it. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the Z-Link. Like, why does Gen Z hate marketing in the way that traditional brands have done it today? Like, I don't get it. Explain it to me.
So many reasons. And I mean, you've probably seen things yourself that like made you cringe, or where it's like painfully obvious that a brand is trying to reach Gen Z without ever having spoken to a young person in their team.
Hmm.
So I think a big part of it is that every brand sort of wants Gen Z's attention because they're the most online generation. We're the generation that's most active on social media, and responds best to things like digital marketing. But the reason why it's kind of like a science or an art right now is because I think a lot of brands don't realize that to talk to young people and offer some kind of value to them and engage them in a way that they respond to, you need to actually give young people a seat at the table. And brands that do that and allow themselves to sort of take creative risks and think outside the box do so much better with young audiences, because we see so many things every single day that we simply do not care for an ad that is the exact same as the 10 previous ones. And it's really hard for brands to step out of this like ad framework and do something new or do something fresh or interesting, because I think a lot of people fear like the creativity and the risk that comes with it. They fear like sort of taking their brand less seriously. But that's what works in marketing today. It's like you have to do something more creative, more risky, more fresh, because of course, when there's so many things competing for the same people's attention, you have to do something to stand out. And I think it's a lot of like we do a lot of research to see exactly what components our generation engages the most with on social media, what it's like for Gen Zers around the world, and then we try and help brands implement that in a way that feels authentic to them and where they can come in and actually provide something either valuable or entertaining or informative to this cohort that they want to reach.
Talk to me about the research. I mean, like we're all competing, including Ventures is competing with the cat memes on TikTok, doom scrolling with that algorithm. But what is it that you're seeing in the research that allows you to have such an interesting perspective on what Gen Z requires when it comes to attention?
Oh, there's so many things. One is that I think brands think that Gen Z's attention span is, we hear 8 seconds long, 8 seconds long, and they're like, okay, we need to just focus on that. But the thing is, I think this is kind of a misleading statistic because we see Gen Z loving long form content. And this statistic doesn't mean that all of your content and marketing content needs to be 10 seconds in order to work. It just means that you need to be more conscious of what value you're providing and why you're expecting people to give you their time. And I
Hmm.
think Gen Z is just more likely to scroll past. And it's just making brands more aware of like, okay, am I actually doing the very best I can do from the start to provide something valuable or entertaining or beautiful or creative to someone that they're going to want to watch? And I think another big thing with Gen Z is like often when we're creating strategies for clients, the first place we will look is like at our own group chats. Like we're a fully Gen Z team and we see what gets shared among our circles. And our team is in like 13 different countries. So there's a lot of different perspectives within our team of Gen Z. And it's like such a good way to find out what our generation is caring about today when you just look at what your friends are sending you, what they're sharing from brands, and then deconstruct why. Um, and it's not like a single recipe at all. Every brand thinks that they have to copy Duolingo and that the only way is like to be unhinged.
Oh, but they actually killed it, didn't they? Like the team at Duolingo were incredible at doing
Yeah.
that.
Of course, and they were, and they're a great example. And so that's definitely one strategy that we know works. And you've had brands like Ryanair, Duolingo, even the Empire State Building on TikTok following this sort of strategy. But then there's other brands that focus on more like creative, sort of cinematic, like more like traditional campaigns that still work really well with Gen Z because they've got an element of storytelling from the start. That's really
For
interesting.
instance, like Wimbledon or the Masters, as an
Yeah,
example,
yeah. I
right?
love how Wimbledon is doing their social media right now because, they give people mics and they make it seem like you're sort of like a part of something you shouldn't be a part of. And it's like there's storytelling, there's humor, there's interest from the start and intrigue. So I think they've really understood that. And, it doesn't have to be a crazy idea. Like what they do, I think, is quite simple. But people just want to watch it because they wanna just hear what other people are saying.
Yeah, there's something in that, right? When
Mhm.
the public interviews that we've seen a lot on social at the moment, that people just go up to others and instantly just captivates you as an audience, right? You
Yeah.
end up stopping on that versus scrolling past something that is a trick or a car being thrown off a building.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think street interviews like have an element of, okay, there's a person I've never seen before, and the first thing you see is you hear the question. And I think you just kind of want to know what this random person is going to say to this question they were just asked in the middle of the street. I think there's kind of like an element of I can see myself in their position, and I wonder
Yeah.
what I would say if someone stopped me in the street and asked me like, what's like your biggest regret or something that instantly like takes a lot of thought. And something that is not the kind of thing that you hear strangers talking about every day. So I think that brings in storytelling. It brings in like social observation in the same day as in the same way as Wimbledon. So I think that's why they're kind of like a timeless format. They're very immediate. There's no time wasting at the start. It's just like you jump in, there's a question, there's a stranger, and the viewer's just like, well, what are they gonna say?
And so we just take the story arc and like you get the start, you get the middle act, you get the end act, you get to the end and so you can then move on happily instead of feeling like there's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
When it comes to the pillars of what makes up a great social strategy for Gen Z, are there certain ones you find yourself coming back to? Is there,
Yes, for sure. For
please?
sure. Um, One that it really depends on the brand, of course, like 100%. Some of them won't work for some brands, but um, I love adding in a community pillar to brands' content strategies. And what I think of as community pillar is a content pillar that focuses either on user-generated content or on spotlighting people from your community or doing something very human for your brand that like engages the people around it very actively because I think every brand wants to be community driven, but it's rarely a part of their content strategy. So when we think of it as a content pillar, it's like, okay, can we showcase our users? Can we talk to them? Can we show the people that are building the brand more actively? Or can we make it a point to ask our audience questions actively on our Instagram or on our stories or run polls or do something that is by definition interactive? Because a big thing is Gen Z loves interacting and sort of co-creating with a brand that they love. So when they're given that space to co-create and like be an active participant instead of just someone that's observing, I think that works really well because most brands sort of just want that in theory, but aren't implementing it as a core part of their content strategy. So I think it's like high reward, low risk, kind of easy way to engage people and have them go the extra mile to engage with you.
How important is the comment section in anything social? I find myself like going more into the comments like today than ever before. And actually, there's a huge amount of value in the way that people communicate with each other, the
Mhm.
insights you can glean out of that. And then it sort of becomes a flywheel for what I can produce next or what a brand can produce next.
Yeah. I think the comment section is so important, especially on TikTok, but I'm also such a comment section person. Like I am always checking the comment section. And I think brands that understand that tend to do really well. And for example, one thing we do to sort of play into that is we'll have a dedicated engagement manager for every one of our clients and try to have that person from the brand's account like engage in comment sections that
Mhm.
are somehow relevant or even not relevant, but just in like a fun, unexpected
Do you
way.
engage in like a
Yeah, for
human
sure.
being, not just as a company? So it's like a
Yeah, as a
person.
human being. Uh-huh. As a human being, but it's the company account. And I think people see that and like you've probably seen it when you're looking at a comment section and like Mercedes is there commenting and it's like, what are you doing here, Mercedes? But it's funny because you're like, what's this big brand doing here with like their social media manager clearly just like, I don't know, commenting on a Love Island TikTok. It's not where you expect to see them. But especially for really like big legacy brands, it's kind of fun because when everyone knows you, you're just like being where your audience already is, and just kind of like making a cheeky little appearance in that space. So I think that's quite a fun way to engage Gen Z in a way that feels very native to them because like they live in the comment sections. So yeah, I think kind of an underused strategy.
I like it. I think I'm a big fan of the comment section. I think I want more people to comment on the live stream, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
want to transition over to the Substack and the book. Did the book grow out of the Substack, like, or is it just a standalone piece that you decided to write?
It didn't grow out of the Substack because my Substack had virtually no followers back then. Back then, I say, like, I mean, the book came out in October, but my Substack grew very fast from maybe this February onwards. Before that, I had about 1,000 subscribers. Now it's at 13,000, and that's
Across
been
all
only in the
states in
past.
the US, bar one, as I hear.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We've got every US state except for Wyoming, which is so funny because there's like dozens of people in every state and not even one in Wyoming. I might just have to run like an ad campaign there. But yeah, so the book
That would
came
make a lot of
before,
sense.
right? So the book came before the Substack. I was writing a little bit on Substack then, but it wasn't connected. The book came mainly out of my personal brand that I had built around the Z-Link, and then my publisher reached out, asked if I'm interested, and I was very interested because I've been a writer forever, and I just really always wanted to write a book, and I guess I was just waiting for the right opportunity, the right trigger. And I spoke to the commissioning editor at the publishing house, Kogan Page, and we just saw eye to eye a lot on like what the book could be, and what I would enjoy writing about. So I put
Yeah.
together the book proposal in like a couple hours. I didn't even know anything about publishing at that point, so I didn't know book proposals were a huge thing that people spend weeks or months on, which I think was good because it took away all the pressure that I would have
As
put
you
on
just
myself if I
ripped
knew.
through a book proposal really quickly.
Yeah, yeah, I did. And then we ended up going with a completely different idea anyway for the book. So it didn't even matter so much. It was just, yeah, it was just that I was lucky. The publishing house approved it. Everyone was like, okay, let's do it. And then I had 4 months to write it. So it was really like a tunnel vision project for these 4 months to write everything I've learned in my career so far that I wish I was taught earlier about careers.
Is it difficult writing a book and managing the business as well? What are some of the learnings you've got from that?
I definitely like, well, it depends on your deadline. I definitely took a bit of a break from managing my business. I wasn't actively selling or doing anything else myself. Obviously, my team was still running our projects, our client projects, but I wasn't doing any public speaking or any personal branding stuff or sales by myself while writing because I had such a tight deadline. It was 65,000 words in 4 months, and it's pretty much all I did. Um, I think if you're writing a book in like a year or two, which is also a very usual timeline, it's probably very viable to do it alongside a business if writing is something that you enjoy. Um, if writing is something that you don't enjoy, I feel like it's going to be a bit of a painful process.
Bit of a slog.
Yeah, because there's a lot of it. There's many, many, many hours of writing and just like looking at a page.
Do you have a favorite chapter within the book that you would constantly come back to?
Um, Yes, I've got a favorite that I come back to for other people and one that I come back to for me. For other people, I find the one I always drive them back to is chapter 5, which is personal branding. And it's just like the most practical chapter on all things personal branding. And I feel like that's the one people always ask the most about. Like, yeah, people are always just like, have questions about personal branding. And I'm like, it's all in that chapter. But my personal favorite is chapter 2, which is called Redefining Success. And it's more of a philosophical chapter rather than a practical chapter. And I really like philosophy. I like thinking of ideas and trying to convey things that are complex in a very clear way that can help someone have a light bulb moment. And I think that's why I like that chapter. It's like about how we don't normally take the time to slow down and properly figure out what success means to us personally. And I really love examining that as a notion because it's so different to everyone that you talk to. And most people sort of take their definition of success from what they think it should be, not how they actually feel. And I think bringing success back to your day-to-day feelings is really important. And that's what I try to prompt the reader to reflect on in that chapter. And I just think no career decision can be made sort of intentionally before you've understood that about yourself and try to let go of the other notions that you have about what success should be or should look like for you.
What is your version of success now? Has it changed throughout the process of writing that book? And like that, when you come back to that chapter?
It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. I've been pretty clear on mine, which is that for me, I want to use my energy every day in a way that feels fulfilling and that brings me joy. At the end of the day, I want to know that I've used my energy in a fulfilling and aligned way. And to me, that means getting to be creative every day and getting to just enjoy my day-to-day life, which also includes having free time to spend with my loved ones and to travel and to explore different creative things because I know that I can't like no amount of money or no milestone or accolade will feel important to me at all if I don't have freedom and joy day to day in my life. So I think freedom and happiness is so important. And then everything else comes after that for me.
Do you think personal branding has allowed you, like building the brand online has allowed you to have that freedom and therefore that definition of success?
For sure, yeah, it's very helpful. And I still have a long way to go, I think, for, personal branding wise, but it's definitely allowed me to access opportunities that I never knew existed. It's been, even when I didn't know I was personal branding, that's what was bringing in opportunities still. It was just me putting myself out there online. Um, and so I think without that, I have no idea where I would be today.
What are some of the nuances of writing online that you figured out that you keep coming back to? Like, I love the posts. I think the design is great. And you've got this like taste that I typically just don't have. Like, how have you curated that?
Thank you. Is that for Substack?
For both the LinkedIn posts and the Substack?
Well, for LinkedIn, I'll go on LinkedIn because I feel like it's probably more relevant for anyone watching. But my only like strategy there is just I really believe that when you write whatever feels authentic to you, and I know authenticity is like an overused word in this space, and people just stop thinking about what it actually means. But when you write about what feels actually enjoyable to you, and you stop thinking about what others are writing about. You don't have ChatGPT generating your like latest marketing trends post. You just write from you about what you're interested in. That's what always works best for me on LinkedIn. In terms of engagement and like opportunities and everything, it's just, I've tried everything. I've tried being like, okay, let's make the most like helpful marketing post ever. 3 likes, and then I'll post like, oh my God, pinch me, this just happened, can't believe it, 300 likes. Like, it's it's just, yeah, the most genuine and authentic you can be, the better. And that's what I try to do on LinkedIn. I try to like forget I'm on LinkedIn and people see it as like a formal platform. Just scrap all of that and just pretend you're writing an email to a friend. And then on Substack, my approach is very similar again, just writing anything I'm learning at that time in my life that I think at least one other person might find helpful. And I try to write again in a very personal and unpretentious way that just focuses on conveying something complex in the clearest way I can. And it doesn't have to be formatted in any like viral way. It doesn't need to be longer or more like philosophical or anything. It just needs to be true. And I just put it out there and hope for the best.
It's pretty much everything on the internet these days, isn't it? It's just like
Yeah.
it's a hope, a little bit of luck, and a hell of a
Yeah,
lot of distribution.
exactly. Yeah.
Do you sort of build an ecosystem of content? Do you use the Substack and take it to and reuse that content on LinkedIn, or do you take the Substack and then reuse that content as images somewhere else, or are they kind of standalone at the moment?
Sometimes I do. It's not like my active strategy. Um, if I think that if sometimes my Substack feels so personal, even though it's my largest platform, I pretend it's like 3 people reading it. So then if I sometimes I don't feel like sharing that on LinkedIn where it feels like very public, you know? So if I've written a Substack essay that feels less personal, I'll share that on LinkedIn as well and be like, and maybe just share the key takeaways or why I'm thinking about this topic. And yeah, I'll do that from time to time. Like I share my Substack quite a lot. I share like the milestones of building a newsletter, what I've learned, because I know a lot of people are on this journey right now. And then
Is
I don't repurpose content in any other way very actively, no.
is building a newsletter still a good strategy to have because you're collecting emails and then therefore can obviously retarget those customers, or is it sort of played out and there are just too many people building newsletters at this moment in time? The inbox is full, we don't really care, we're just sort of skimming through it, and then with AI being in our inbox just giving us summaries, like how do you think about that?
In a brand perspective or in a personal
i
brand
guess i guess
perspective?
from both perspectives.
I'll tell you, I think that's a great question. From a brand perspective, like I think there are some brands doing newsletters really, really well, but there's just very few of them, and they need a great copywriter, which most brands think they can outsource to AI, but it's really apparent and like boring to read. So I think it only works if you've actually got a great copywriter that people get to know in terms of the voice of the brand and they enjoy reading it. Um, and because that's so rare, it's even more like delightful when you stumble upon it. From a personal brand perspective, I think that if you enjoy writing, it's definitely a great way to go, especially because, I mean, I'm kind of like a free Substack ambassador right now, but because on Substack, the network effects help you grow so much. I think 90% of my subscribers come from Substack's network effects, which is crazy. So from people commenting on my posts or liking them or reposting quotes from my posts. So it is a newsletter, but it also lives on its own social media platform that helps it grow so actively. I find that insanely valuable because I think without that, I would have 2,000 subscribers. And I think a newsletter on a platform like this allows you to reach a lot more people a lot faster if you get lucky. And if you enjoy that format and the sort of longer form writing, it can be really rewarding because you build a community that actually knows a lot more about you and feels closer to you. And it can drive business opportunities as well, even though it's like a personal channel for me, for example. Like I don't talk business on it at all, but then someone will come to the Z-Link and be like, I found you on Substack.
That's insane. I think that long form is having this resurgence at the moment, especially as everything gets more optimized, more short form orientated. And then long form is just this, we're having a conversation, you're building connection, you're maintaining attention. And that is probably the most important thing today.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Erifili, this has been an absolute masterclass in Gen Z and everything content related, to be honest with you. We're going to have to do a longer segment with breaking down the research with you. Uh,
That'd be amazing.
do you
Thank
have
you so
any,
much.
I'm sure that you, at some point in the year, you release marketing material. Let's get you on then. Let's have a whole research session for an hour, just breaking down everything Gen Z, and then we'll
Let's
find a
do
way
it.
to get some of the brands involved.